Is Formula One too predictable? This is a criticism that is always laid at the feet of Formula One. It's boring, there's no overtaking, you already know who's going to win the race by the time the first corner has been completed. But is this the case? Is this a fair criticism? Well, it's not completely unfounded. You look at the race results this year, and almost every single pole sitter in Formula One has won the race that they have started on pole. And even in the circumstances where the drivers that are not the fastest usually, such as George Russell in Canada, they still managed to get victory after starting on pole. There's very few examples so far in the 10 rounds in 2025 where a non-pole sitter has won the race. The Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, where Oscar Piastri managed to win, is one of the few examples, but even then he still managed to win from P2 on the grid. It's not exactly completely out of the blue, and that's down to a number of different factors. Of course, tyre wear being so important in Formula One, clear air being so important in Formula One, having a very fast car in qualifying normally means that you'll have a very fast car in the race as well. And like I said, it's not completely unfounded that they might seem a bit too predictable these days. One of the reasons I think why it is so predictable in a lot of senses is because of the reliability of cars nowadays. It wasn't that uncommon back in the day for less than 10 cars to take the finish of the race. Indeed, only the points back in these days used to go down to the top 6 or down to the top 8 between 2003 and 2009, I think that period was. So very much Formula One cars are so much more reliable than what they used to be. It's not uncommon nowadays for drivers to finish the race entirely. The entire 20-car grid that started the race will end up finishing it because the reliability of these cars is so much better. And again, we can go into why that is, but the technology basically has been absolutely mastered by all of the power unit suppliers, with the possible exception of Renault, but we'll not talk about them too much here. And in fairness, to be fair, Mercedes nowadays, they're struggling for reliability too in their power unit. But in general, most of the cars that end up starting the race will finish it, so there's less unreliability there with that too. On top of that as well, Formula One teams are so much smarter now in terms of their strategy. They have millions, if not billions, of different simulations about different race strategies and everything like that. They already know how they are going to react to any kind of unpredictable situation. But I would of course counter all this by saying that individual races are quite unpredictable. You might argue that the qualifying session is very important and sets pretty much what's going to happen for the remainder of the race, but coming into the weekend you can't always say who's going to win. Who would have predicted that Max Verstappen would have won the Japanese Grand Prix this year before they actually arrived at Suzuka? People were saying that McLaren were going to win every single race of that year, and yet they only managed to win the first 2 in a row before Verstappen ended up tasting the victory champagne in Suzuka. Likewise as well, George Russell at the Canadian Grand Prix, who gave Mercedes a realistic shot of taking victory even after he got pole position. A lot of people were doubting as to whether he would have the race pace to be able to hold off Max Verstappen and the McLarens behind him, but he did. So I would say coming into each race weekend, it's quite unpredictable in terms of who's going to win. Even in an era right now where McLaren are clearly the dominant car, you can't rule out the likes of Max Verstappen, George Russell, maybe even a Ferrari getting in the mix as well. And who would have predicted that the McLarens would have crashed in the way they did at Canada as well? I think individual moments in Formula One are quite unpredictable, but I would say overall, we kind of know how this season's going to go already. We know that McLaren are going to win the Constructors' Championship. We already know that more than likely it's going to be a McLaren driver that wins the Drivers' Championship. And to be honest, it's looking very likely that it's going to be Oscar Piastri. And we're not even halfway through the season, so that is very much a negative there. It's the overtaking and things like that as well during races that rub people the wrong way. And the circuits are to blame for this to an extent. I'm not saying the circuits are bad, there are some bad tracks in Formula One, but you compare other motorsport series to Formula One, ones like IndyCar and NASCAR, when they run around ovals, there's far much more overtaking, and therefore the race results is a lot more unpredictable. But at the same time, overtaking in Formula One is truly an art. It's something to be mastered and something that is very difficult, and it should be difficult. And plus, there are series where it's even harder to overtake. Look at Formula E. You hardly see any overtaking there, as it's basically a peloton going around, and it's an economy race. It's something, again, that is very much levelled at Formula One. But honestly, the critics of Formula One should go watch FE. There is far much more of that in that series than there is in F1. Different series, different car, different drivers, different tracks, but you get my point. So overall, is Formula One predictable? Yeah, it kind of is. But still, I still find it very entertaining to watch. You never know when things are going to explode when you come to the action. It's always going to entertain for me. The drivers, the teams, the stories, the circuits. I love it all personally, even though, admittedly, we kind of know how this season's going to go. But how do we know what's going to happen next year in 2026? The regulations are all changing. McLaren might be a midfield team again. Ferrari might be the fastest team in Formula 1. Who knows? We don't. We've got no clue. And that's part of the excitement. So overall, yeah, it is kind of predictable. But I still love it. Your thoughts in the comments below, guys, though. Is Formula 1 too unpredictable? Because it always has been this way to an extent. It really has. This is nothing new, but it's something that everybody loves to criticise. Like, share, comment, subscribe if you want to see more like this, guys. And have a fantastic day wherever in the world today, and we'll see you very soon.